Welcome back, YouTubians. YouTubians? Welcome back, YouTube. So, in today's educational series, we're going to talk about the dieting versus building phase and how both of them are so important and obviously go hand in hand to completely transform your physique. And we're going to talk about maybe some pros, maybe some cons to both of them, but essentially, if you are on a physique journey, you'll know what a diet is and you'll know what a bulk is, but we're going to go into a little bit more depth today in regards to how each one is almost like the prerequisite for one another, and it just continually sets you up for the next time that you do it. And, you know, again, as I always say, most people watching this, you are in it for the long term. It's not just like one dieting phase done and that's it, I've got abs for summer, I'm set for life now. Most people will want to improve on their physique time and time again who are on this channel. So we're going to kick it off by talking about the dieting phase first. So yes, dieting phases do essentially mean you probably have to be a little bit more structured, a little bit more routined. That being said, like I've said in previous videos, if you can treat your building phase or off season very similar to a dieting phase in regards to structure and routine, this is where I've seen the most amount of progress over the years, like especially the past 2 years. Like I've maybe in the past been a little bit more sloppy and just like carefree when it comes to the building phase. Like, oh, you know, it's, as long as I'm eating and weight's going up and I'm getting stronger, then that's fine. But maybe disregarded like the weekends and I'd just use that as an excuse to eat shit, even though I didn't need to. And equally, you know, not as important to kind of prioritize things like your steps and your cardio. Whereas obviously going back to the dieting phase, you do have to be a lot more routine and even, you know, more routine, you know, in an off season. Like if you swap maybe, you know, foods for foods, like for like foods, it's not the end of the world as long as you're still hitting close to macros or macros bang on. Whereas with a dieting phase, yes, you do have to be a little bit more strict. If you want the best results, of course, always going back to that point, if you want the best results, which I'm sure most of you watching this do want the best results, you don't just want a half-hearted result or that'll do result, you want the best, of course, we always want the best. That being said, it is only for a few months of the year. And, you know, essentially, if you put in all the work in a building phase to not kind of fulfill that dieting phase out and see kind of the hard work and the fruits of your labour that you've put into it, it's almost like why have you done the building phase? Like you're not kind of giving yourself justice, or you'll be doing yourself a disservice if you don't commit properly to a dieting phase. So I think a lot of people struggle with the fact that it is more strict. You do have to be more strict. Like there's no room for error or a little bit of wiggle room if you want, again, the best standard of results. Like obviously we'll get into this in a second, but a building phase, you know, not the end of the world if you miss a cardio session within your week, or not the end of the world if you overconsume a little bit with food within a day or on the weekend, for example, because you can just put that towards extra fuel for your training sessions. Whereas within a diet, of course, you are looking to chase, you know, improving on your body composition. You want to strip body fat while retaining the muscle that you've built and worked hard for within the building phase. But again, to reiterate, it is only for a short period of the year. Unlike a building phase, which will be, you know, up to or longer than a year. But I think it's always important to, like, the dieting phases pay off if you are structured and serious, you know, and it's also a lot more motivating as well. Like I've always struggled really with, I love dieting phases because it's like, it's almost daily, definitely weekly, but almost sometimes daily changes that you're seeing. You might wake up a little bit lean and you might see different veins starting to appear on your chest or your arms or your shoulders. And for me in the dieting phase, like that instant kind of gratification or that kind of weekly or, you know, bi-weekly changes that you're seeing, on, like I say, potentially even daily changes that you're seeing, is like internal motivation because you're seeing the external payoff. Whereas obviously, like I say, with a building phase, you might not be seeing too much from week to week. You know, you might see the scales go up a little bit, the scales might not even move 1 week. You might gain one extra rep in the gym, you know, per exercise, or just even on one exercise for the whole session. And for a lot of people, including myself in the past, that's a little bit like, fuck, this is a bit boring. Whereas with a dieting phase, like, oh shit, I can see my abs coming through, or the scale weight's come down 2 pounds this week. Like that in itself is more motivating. And you can see why people don't commit properly to building phases, because like that is serious delayed gratification. You just have to trust that what you are doing, as long as everything's on point and every variable is being controlled, that it's working. And the proof was in the pudding this year that I, you know, at the back end of my building phase, I was like, have I built anything again? Like it's hard, you can't see visually really. You might look a little bit bigger, your t-shirts might be a little bit more snug, but that doesn't always mean you've built more muscle, okay? You might have just gained a bit of body fat and a little bit of extra water weight. However, you just have to trust in that process that it will pay off. And obviously you know, you see invisible changes every week within the dieting phase. Is pretty much your fitness is improving, your conditioning's improving, you feel just generally better, you have more energy, you're more focused, you're more sharp. So yeah, it's tough, but the results are always worth it. And obviously, as you can see by this back picture here, I managed to pick up a gold medal, or 2 gold medals for that fact, and a silver medal. So yeah, you know, it pays off, and you just have to trust in that. And you know, it might not be a competition prep that you're doing, it might be for a photo shoot, but then looking back on them pictures or looking at the pictures after the photo shoot's done, you'd be like, wow, that was it, you know, that was worth it. So going on to the building phase, you know, when you're in the building phase, things obviously do look a little bit different. So the benefits are you can be a little bit more flexible with food. So I've spoken about this before in a previous video that, like, for example, now within my dieting phase, like every single meal was my meal within that plan. Like I had every meal every single day for 27 weeks on plan, not a kind of gram over or a gram under of foods. Whereas now I'm a little bit more relaxed, you know, not to the extremes, but my breakfast, pretty much every meal is still the same, okay? But I do have flexibility now where as long as my macros are relatively close, myself and my fiance Hannah, we will have we'll have the same tea. We'll cook the same tea. I'll just make sure that the protein requirements are needed to fit that meal that I would normally have, the carbs and the fats, etc. And if the fats are maybe a little bit over because we're having some garlic bread or we're having some cheese on it or whatever it might be, I'll simply just pull it down slightly with my last meal or meals in the day. Okay, so it's very easy and nice. And once you've been doing this for long enough, you can simply be like, all right, okay, so I've had some Parmesan on my tea tonight, so I'm going to pull out my dark chocolate with my last meal to account for them fats to balance out. This is where a lot of people go wrong because they're in a bulk or a build and they think flexibility. They'll probably have that extra Parmesan with their evening meal and then still have the dark chocolate with the last meal, for example. And that's when obviously you kind of tip too much into a surplus and more than likely accumulate too much body fat, okay? So yeah, more flexibility with food. You've got space for social meals on the weekend, and you know, I don't like calling them off plan or cheat meals or anything like that. They're just social meals. It's just food in a social environment, okay? So, you know, having that more freedom as well. You're not dieting, so you don't have to worry about slightly going up on the scales the next morning or your digestion being off or anything like that. And, you know, within reason, I'd never go out and smash like a 3-course meal, or on the weekends I'll never go and smash like a full box of donuts. It's, you know, Hannah and I will go for a family meal. It'll just be like a nice pub meal out or a nice restaurant meal where I'll choose, you know, like a steak or a burger or a chicken pasta meal, like things like that. And that is nice as well because, you know, you've earned the right to do that within your dieting phase, to have that more flexibility and freedom. And obviously you've got more balance between your training and lifestyle as well. So I think a big one for me this year, transitioning into my build again, like in my dieting phase, I was so like dialed in. I didn't want to change anything about anything, like literally nothing would change. And like someone would ask me, do you want to train together at this gym, or do you want to do, you know, pull with me on this day? I'm like, oh God. I'd be like, no. And I'd turn down so many sessions, or I'd just say no to like training with people in different gyms because I just wanted everything to be so like meticulous. And again, obviously it worked in my favor because I had a pretty good first bodybuilding season. However, I did make a promise to myself that within the building phase, I'm not going to be that strict or rigid, because you do miss out on certain aspects of like social kind of the side of things. Like I really enjoy training with people. I say that time and time again. And for, you know, 27 weeks or longer than 27 weeks really, because in the building phase, I was still a little bit strict with things like that. But going into this one, a lot more kind of freedom is there to do things like that. But yeah, I think, you know, there's so much more to it than it is a solo sport, don't get me wrong, but do bring people along for the ride as well. Like if you can train with people within an off season, do it. If you can train with people within a dieting phase, do it. You know, that extra push is nice from time to time. So yeah, benefits of building phases. You know, it's exciting because you can enjoy food with a little bit more freedom and without the kind of guilt side of things as well. Like if your scales go up the next morning, it's probably because of a little bit more food volume within the stomach or different, you know, macros, or the sodium, the salt might be a little bit higher. If the scales go up the next morning, it's not like, no, I've got to do loads of cardio now to kind of burn back the calories. So yeah, building phases are better because I say better, there's not one that's superior, but better in regards to you don't feel guilty if you do go up on the scales or you have a little bit more food than that's planned, okay? Progress continues, you know, it's a little bit slower in terms of like your body changing or muscle mass being acquired or your training potentially, but you know, dieting feels easier knowing that it's not forever. And I think that's one of the biggest things as well. Like when you are in a dieting phase, just think like you're just revealing all the hard work that you've put in throughout the building phase. So it's quite a nice, it's one of them where it's like, yes, I'm dieting. Yes, it's going to be harder. I'm going to have to be more strict. I'm going to have to do more cardio, more steps, be more accurate with my tracking of foods and stuff. But you're getting a big payoff from it. It's not like you're not getting anything from it in the end. And if you aren't someone who, appreciates the work and the process of things like this, then unfortunately, like physique development or bodybuilding isn't for you. And I'm sorry if that probably crushes a few hearts today, but it's not. It's a process, and this is why I love it so much, because it isn't instant. You have to work hard, you have to work long, and you have to be patient and consistent with it. And then that's when the payoff comes. Because like looking back now at my pictures from on stage and looking at my medals, it's like, wow, I did that. Like over a long period of time, it wasn't just given to me. It wasn't just like winning on a scratch card or winning the lottery. It wasn't just luck. Like you have done that hard work. And I think personally, there's no better feeling than, earning the right to results, earning the right to progress, earning the right to wins. So the catch, I say the catch, here's the key. The freedom of a build is something that you earn as well. Okay, if you don't push yourself in the diet, the build becomes messy. So what I mean by this is, if your dieting phase is sloppy, or your building phase is sloppy, or vice versa, likeliness is the other one's going to be sloppy too. So because my diet was pretty, well, I say pretty, it was 100%, I didn't step a foot out of line. Therefore, coming into this off season now, which will be my longest one ever, all them kind of traits and habits that I've learned throughout that diet has kind of stuck with me. Yes, I have a little bit more freedom still, but it's allowed me now to see my physique changing like I've never seen it change before in a building phase. Normally I just get soft, get a bit fat. I've still got, good definition of abs. I'm filling out, I look better, I feel better, I'm performing better. So again, you have to earn the right to each phase. If you're half-heart in a building phase, chances are you're going to half-heart a prep, okay, and vice versa. Each year, technically, every diet that you do and every build that you do should become smoother and smoother. One, because you've got more data on yourself, you know what works, you know what foods digest well, you know kind of what areas you need to work on, what muscle groups you need to bring up. But two, because you are building up this momentum and these habits stick for a long, long time, it should get easier. If you're doing your first ever diet or your first ever build properly and structured, of course it's going to feel hard. But when you do it time and time again, and this is why skin in the game and experience and earning your stripes is so important. Like, it's very rare that someone will go straight into the first ever build and nail it within the first period, or their first ever prep. However, I think I nailed my first ever prep, to be fair. So, but yeah, that's all dependent on the individual. Anyway, the takeaway from this video is dieting. It's short term. Yes, there's sacrifices. There's more commitment. There's more or less leniency, but the reward is huge. Okay, the building phase, the pros from it is you've got the freedom with foods more so. You've got a bit more balance. You can be a bit more social. You can continue to kind of grow and develop within the gym. Okay, but you need both of these to build your best physique. Okay, and that's the most important message to take away from this. And if you are unsure, I think this is a very common thing that I speak to with a lot of lads who come onto calls, is they don't know what phase they should be going into. And I'll just leave you with this for a quick rule of thumb. Like if you can't see your abs right now, or like visible definition around your midsection, I'd probably, if you were looking to build muscle, that is, I'm presuming, I'd probably do a little bit of a dieting phase first, like a little bit of a tidy up or priming phase, whatever you want to call it, to then start a building phase. And if you are lean enough, then you can go straight into a building phase. It sounds simple. There are obviously complexities to it, where it is like, you don't need to push food really, really high. You don't need to jump up massively on the scales, etc. But if you are unsure, just give me a message. I'm more than happy to kind of just point you in the right direction, because I wish someone just told me that when I was younger. Because I was lean for a good few years, and I got fat, and then I was lean again. But no one ever told me to gradually build up. Like, as a natural lifter, you don't need to push scale weight stupid numbers. You don't need to push body fat stupid high. It's just about doing it in a gradual manner, and it takes a bit of time, and that's the one thing that I will leave you with. But again, if you do have any questions, as always, just let me know. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.